Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and as is my wont on occasion, whenever I get my hands on a new item, a new collectible, action figure, Japanese import figure, whatever it happens to be, I always like to do a sort of showcase video, unboxing kind of thing, showing it off, and, basically I wanted to share with you guys my very first, in this case, Figuarts figure, which is their R2-D2, A New Hope R2-D2, and I had seen some videos and some pictures of this guy, and it just looks friggin' awesome. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to show it in the box and everything like that is because one of my sort of long-standing complaints with whenever you see figure photography or videos showcasing new items and whatever like that, they usually exclusively showcase the piece, and not all of the time do they showcase the box that it comes in. And I always feel that there is a bit of a disconnect with what the size of the piece is, and I like to gain my bearings. I like to be able to put out there kind of what I want to see. How big is it? Well, this is what it looks like in hand. You know, this is a human being holding this item. The box is not quite as big as my head, but the box is, all nice and shiny, and, gonna get the magpies going nuts, and a lot of Japanese stuff, because this is, of course, Bandai, Tamashi Nations, Figuarts. And again, exclusively, specifically, this is the A New Hope version of R2. And I'm going to be opening them, and I'm going to be doing some size comparisons, because I spent a hell of a lot of time, let me tell you, looking into this figure. I had originally been perfectly content with the Black Series R2-D2, and this is him here. This is the Black Series R2. Now, I've had him alongside R5-D4, the Black Series version. I've had them both put away in a figure box together, and I already noticed when I took them out to do a size comparison with this R2, a bit of a problem that I've noticed in a lot of people's videos whenever they showcase. I don't know how well you're going to be able to tell, but the feet are sort of indented inward. They don't remain straight, and I've only had them in the box for maybe a couple of months, and not in sweltering heat, even though it does get hot in Florida. We have the AC running all the time, so I don't know why they're bent. And the same thing happened with R5 here. They're bent inward toward the middle, and that's really kind of frustrating and annoying. I don't know why that happens. It's in a box. It wasn't under a lot of pressure. Yes, they were side by side, but I had them like this in the box next to each other. So I don't know how that would impact the feet and make them, sort of get pushed inward like that. That really sucks. But in any case, let's open the Figuarts. So now the interesting thing about this box too is I always go to open the top flap, but actually on these boxes you want to open the side flap, and I've already opened this one. If I can find the seam, as you can see, nice metallic stuff inside. And there's also like a little pamphlet that comes with this sucker behind the cardboard in the box. As you can see, pulling out the little plastic bubble that holds R2. Now, as I say, I spent a lot of time doing size comparisons, and I was calling up tons and tons of old sort of, photos that were taken from the sets of Star Wars, production imagery, and things like that, because I just wanted an R2-D2 scaled approximately, to what he looked like in the real world on the sets of those films, standing next to these other actors and characters like C-3PO and everything like that. And from right out of the gate, you can see this is the brand new R2 Figuarts. The detail on this sucker is insane. It just looks awesome. Of course, you're not going to get all of the quality of the look and the design of it with this camera, probably. There are other videos that can show you much better. But just for a size comparison, here are the two. This is the Black Series. This is SH Figuarts. You can see this one's a lot smaller, as well as the details. This is all strictly white, whereas this one is kind of an off-white, the Figuarts, and it has the detailing around all of the boxy components all over the body, the chassis. It's been given like kind of a wash, and I love the look of this one more because it looks more like an actual astromech. You know, I also love the fact that the plastic reminds me of, like, if you've ever had a computer, a home computer or PC in the 90s, which were usually kind of this color white and this texture of plastic, it makes it look more like a machine to me. You know, I associate it with those old computers and things. So that's the size comparisons between the two R2s, just to show them again. As you can see, the Figuarts is bigger, but the question that I had was, would it look good next to my Black Series figures in scale? Did it look approximate to what it looked like in all those production stills and in the movie and everything like that? And the only figure thus far that I had out when this finally arrived the other day was a $8 C3PO, a sort of cheapo C3PO that I got at my local Walgreens. It's, you know, sort of a staction piece for the most part. You can move the head and the arms, but very limitedly. But that's this C3PO. And so, standing next to R2, what I was really concerned about was I saw a lot of people making the suggestion that R2 is supposed to only be waist height, about to, you know, this bottom piece, this sort of crotch piece, you know, where it is right there up in the waist. And this R2 stands a little bit higher. Now, I've been scouring so many production stills and things like that. If you get the Black Series, you know, this isn't the Black Series C3PO, but it's comparable because it's made by Hasbro. You know, the Black Series R2 does come up to that height, but a lot of people have said about the Black Series R2 that it's too small. It just still looks too small. I agree with that. Getting out the actual Black Series 3PO, which is here, and it's the first time I've had him out of the box since I bought him, because I love him so much. I don't want him, you know, to get screwed up or anything. The Black Series R2 does come up to that height, just about to the bottom piece, you know, just under the wiring. And so that makes a kind of sense, right? But people are saying he looks too small, and I agree. And I looked at a lot of production imagery, and I've come to the conclusion that alongside the Black Series, the Figuarts gets it more and more dead on. Because if you look at the approximate heights, the top of R2's dome actually should come up to just the underside of this little sort of saucer in 3PO's belly. And that's exactly where this one reaches. And that's how they're supposed to look. That's how, according to a lot of the imagery I've seen, that's how they're supposed to look. That's the size R2 is supposed to be. And that's really, I mean, that's really what I wanted. I wanted an R2 of comparable size to how he actually looked in the real world. As I say, using the $8 3PO, it just makes all kinds of sense to me. That is the size he's supposed to be in the imagery, or at least according to the imagery, the production stills and things like that, stills from the movie. If you specifically look at a shot in A New Hope, when they are on the Death Star, and 3PO and R2 have been left in the sort of control room while Han and Luke have donned stormtrooper armor and they've gone to find Leia in the prison section. There's a point where a sort of frustrated 3PO sort of rests his arm on, you know, R2's dome, and the top of the dome meets the underside of the saucer. And that's exactly the size. That's exactly the way they're supposed to look, according to the production imagery. Some of the production imagery shows R2 to be slightly smaller, slightly you know, like where the Black Series one is supposed to be, it comes up to the top of the waist just under the wires. But all of the other imagery that I saw, that I was looking at and scouring, shows him to be a little bigger. And the Figuarts, next to a Black Series or a comparable to Black Series figure, that's the size this figure is. So it's the right ratio. And that really was concerning to me. I wanted something that looked good on the shelf, but I wanted it to be as accurate as possible, just for my own tastes. Again, looking at the Black Series 3PO alongside him. Now, to me, that is the perfect match. That's the way they're supposed to look. So it's really a shame that Figuarts had to come along and give us an R2 that was actually compatible, whereas the Black Series gave us this little sort of dink, you know. And I hate to disparage it, because I really wanted this when it came out. You know, this was the 40th anniversary re-release, and I hadn't had one. I had missed the opportunity to get one when the Black Series version first came out years ago. When I got 3PO, I was excited, but I knew I needed an R2. And the comparable one, the one that makes the most sense, the one that looks exactly like it should look, is the Figuarts. Now, another comparison I wanted to do, and I'm going to be doing this exclusively on camera for the first time. I don't know if this is going to work. Another image corresponding to the size of the prop, the R2-D2 prop in the film, was an image of Carrie Fisher as Leia from A New Hope. And I have the 40th anniversary re-release version, the non-ugly face sculpt version. In the image, she's standing straight before she bends down and programs R2 with the message to Obi-Wan Kenobi. You know, it's like a production still in the middle of filming, and she's just standing straight like this. And I looked, you know, very scrutinizingly at R2, who's kind of standing like this. And the top of his dome reaches just about her chest height, the full-size prop. So we're going to look at that, try to approximate where their feet are. And that nails it. That's, as if you can't tell, that's her chest. And so this, the Figuarts, along with the Black Series figures, that's the correct size for R2. That's the way the prop was. That's the way he looked corresponding to the other actors. And again, like I say, the piece de resistance is Leia. And she was standing straight up and down like that, looking down at R2, about to bend down and give him the information. And in that shot, that's how high his dome reached. From foot to the tippy top of the dome. And it corresponds with her anatomy, for lack of a better term. So, like, the Figuarts, in case you haven't noticed by now, at least for my tastes, is the R2. He's the R2 figure you want to get. If you want something that is comparable to the size ratios, being in scale to what the original prop was alongside the Black Series figures. I saw somebody say, oh, you know, you don't want to put him next to the Black Series 3PO because it's just undersized. Frankly, I've seen the Figuarts 3PO. It's a lot bigger, but it doesn't look like 3PO to me. I've seen a lot of these different, you know, model kits and all this kind of stuff, whatever like that. And it just doesn't look like 3PO to me. This Black Series looks the closest approximation to me to C-3PO out of a figure that I've seen anywhere. And the weird thing about that is I say that, but I'm looking at this $8 one. Here's the Black Series. I'm looking at this $8 one. It looks even more like 3PO than the Black Series. It's a pre-posed. You can't move the legs at all. It's staction from the waist down. You can move the arms a little bit, and you can move the head, although it's really tight. But it looks even more like 3PO to me. It's a lot golder. Sort of, there's a more copperish gold to this one than this one. And it's so weird. It's like such a cheap figure, pre-posed figure, but it looks even more to me like 3PO, especially the head sculpt. You know. And a lot of the problem I have with like the Figuarts ones that I've seen is, you know, they had the vac metallized and really shiny and whatever like that. Okay, it's closer to what the suit that Anthony Daniels wore looked like. But I don't need a vac metallized 3PO. I'm fine with this as long as it looks like, you know, the character. But a lot of the problem I have with like the model kits and the Figuarts and everything that I've seen is the head. The head sculpt gets very thin. Let me put the Black Series down. It gets very thin at the bottom of the face, and that's not how it's supposed to look. This is how it's supposed to look. So, I mean, this $8 cheapo 3PO is sort of like the best 3PO I've seen in figure form ever. The pose, even, is perfect. Like, all I needed to do was twist the head a little bit, put, you know, R2 next to him, and he looks great. I still love the Black Series, don't get me wrong. And they are, I mean, they must be, like, the same molds. Hasbro made both of them, so... But this one's just a little bit more gold, a little darker gold, and just looks a little better than even this one. You know, even the head. The head looks better on the cheapo one, to me, than the Black Series one. It's kind of weird. So with that in mind, I will probably put the Black Series one, you know, back in the box. And if I display 3PO and R2 next to each other, this might be it. You know? So, yeah, just another harrowing figure adventure with Johnny Blues here. I can't say enough about the Figuarts R2. A lot of really cool stuff with this, as far as, like, you know, it comes with a couple accessories, these little pieces that are meant to go, they're meant to be swapped out on the bottom between the feet, or whatever you want to call them, the rollers, you know. They go up into this area here, and it's meant to basically employ, you know, if you look at A New Hope, there were times where R2 had that because Kenny Baker, the actor who was in the chassis, those would be his legs when they had to, you know, have R2 wobbling along, sort of, instead of rolling along. And so they had these outcropping sort of cylindrical wire things that would house his feet, and, you know, whenever you'd see R2 sort of just moving along like that instead of rolling along, you'd see that, and that's his feet down in the legs of the chassis so he can hobble it along, you know. It has, you know, as far as the Figuarts, it has the doors on the front now. The Black Series also had that for both R5 and R2. There are little arms, you know, detachments and things that pop out. They don't actually come off the piece as far as I'm aware. But, you know, this R2, the Figuarts R2 has that. I'm not going to open them. I haven't opened them. I'm not going to. These two bands on the chest, they can sort of be pulled out. I'm not going to do that. And this little, the red little light, or, you know, it's a light on the actual prop. There's a button on the top, and I'm not going to do it with the front one. I'll show it with the back one. There's a light here as well, and you can press a button, and if you see that, it changes colors, and that's really cool. I prefer the sort of green gold, but you can do that on the front as well. They have an all silver one, so it looks like he's kind of in resting mode. They have a blue one, and then they have a blue and red, sort of half and half. But I like the red. I think the red is the most complimentary to him. And the head is actually removable, as you can see. Unlike the Black Series, which has the gimmick of, you know, pulling out the third leg, this actually kind of annoyed me even when I first got it. But you got to twist the head to have the leg come out. And, you know, so like the posability there is kind of frustrating. As you can hear, it's popping just to get the head back to sort of where I want it to be, with the leg already back up inside. Whereas with the Figuarts, it's just a spring. Comes out, pops back in, and I love this. I love it. This is, to date, the best, and probably for all time, the best, most satisfying R2 figure in the, you know, particular scale that I wanted with such figures like from the Black Series. Again, looking at him next to Leia, the comparable size there, matching exactly where you see them side by side in the production stills. That's what I wanted. I wanted an R2 that was the correct size visually alongside those figures. And Figuarts, Bandai, Tamashi Nations, they delivered and then some. I love the paint. I love the detailing. Everything about this. It is the pitch perfect R2-D2 as far as I'm concerned. Again, it's kind of sad that, you know, like the Figuarts 3PO, I hate the way that looks. I hate the way the model kits look. This $8 cheapo figure is about the best representation I've ever seen of 3PO, pre-posed and all of that. It really harkens back to me going to Star Tours in Disney's then MGM Studios, but it's known as Hollywood Studios nowadays. You know, and seeing the animatronic 3PO, which it blew my mind as a teenager. Like, oh my God, it's an animatronic. It's an actual robotic 3PO. It's the real deal. But I do still love the Black Series for what it is. You know, it's still. I mean, I say this cheapo figure is probably the best representation, but this is still. When I got this, and you can see kind of right here, right now, you can see this one's a little shinier. This one's a little, I don't know, muted. It's a little lighter and a little muted than this one is. This one is more closely approximating 3PO. I think the head on this one might be a little wide too. The Black Series, a little wider than it ought to be, which this cheapo figure nails. I mean, you might be seeing, you know, it's the same thing, Johnny, get over it, but it looks different in person to me. But yeah, this Figuarts R2 is awesome sauce. And, you know, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Showcase it, share it with you, and whatever like that. Because it is a badass piece. And I love it. And, again, I just wanted to show what the comparable size, if you're holding it in hand, what does it look like? This is the size of my hand. This is the size of the figure. You know, not just a close-up and exclusively images of the piece. I want you to be able to see this is the size of this sucker. So yeah, you know, thank you for watching. If you watched to this point, one more exclusive shot of R5's bunghole there for you. So you can mention that in the comments if you made it to this point in the video. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this look at these figures and getting inside the mind of a collector like myself who's very picky. I don't need complete collections of complete series of figures. I just want the figures, you know, representing the characters I love and adore and that I want for my own tastes and particulars. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, I scoured and I looked at the Black Series. I was content with this for a time. But then when I started looking at the Figuarts, I mean, there's no comparison here. There's really no comparison here. You want one that looks authentic and genuine and like the real deal. This is it. The Figuarts is it. Another thing, one last thing. Look at the muted blues, and whereas the Figuarts has these metallic, I don't know if you can tell, but the blues are metallic, whereas this is dark and it just looks like crap. So yeah, that's going to be enough of my yakking on sizes of figures and figures on whole and everything like that. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.